Xavier lands a big commitment today from Nyk Lewis, a guy that they prioritized the entire spring and summer. They've been on him really going back to last June. Adam Cohen, lead recruiter, built up that relationship with him, and then they were able to stay the course really the entire spring and summer, made him a priority, and beat out a bunch of other schools that were in there at different points. It felt like, Marquette was the leader, LSU was the leader, Seton Hall was the leader. And when I say leader, I mean like contending with Xavier for the lead. And the consistent team was always Xavier. And in the end, they were able to get it done as he made his announcement today around 4:30. In terms of Nyk's game, the word that comes to mind is playmaker. He just gets a lot done. He impacts the game in a lot of different ways. He's physically tough. I think in terms of his offensive game, you're going to see some bully ball when he gets to the college level. He likes to be physical and push guys around and use his body to gain some leverage. And he has a really nice mid-range game as well. And that's part of what I wrote about in the Impact article, is looking at the synergy numbers from this spring and summer. He finished off quote unquote runners. So basically like floaters, mid-range shots on the move at a 53% clip, which is very good, among the top in Nike EYBL play. So very impressive there. I think you will have to refine his shot selection a little bit. He has a tendency to take a lot of tough mid-range 2-pointers, and that's not something that Xavier loves to do, but he is good at it, and that's a part of his game that I think will be refined and continue to evolve. He's also a good finisher around the basket. He's not a high flyer. He's not going to be playing above the rim. He's a smaller guy and not a freak athlete by any means, but he finishes really well around the basket and takes contact well, finishes through that contact, gets to the free throw line. When he does get to the charity stripe, he's an excellent free throw shooter, around 87%, I believe, on the spring and summer. So no concerns there. Definitely fits in with the Xavier mentality in terms of that, getting to the free throw line and making those shots. I also think one thing that's going to give him a chance to play early on in his career, and something that makes him a good fit for being a young, smaller point guard playing for Sean Miller, is that he's tough defensively. And I think he's tough in a way that fits well with Xavier's style of play. I wrote about that more in the Impact article at musketeerreport.com if you want to read up on that. But I just think overall that fit is really there, and it especially stands out on the defensive side of the floor. And that may give him a chance to impact the Musketeers early on in his career. Obviously, it's difficult for any freshman to come in and make an early impact in this current era of transfer portal guys, 5th-year, 6th-year players. But Nyk's physical maturity and the way he approaches the defensive side and rebounding will give him a bit of a chance. Now, in terms of what it means for Xavier, I thought this was something that jumped out to me about this recruitment when he ended up committing, or at least, a week ago when found out he was likely to commit to Xavier and pull the trigger. In the age of NIL deals and conference realignment, and we're getting to the point very soon where schools are going to be paying the players, you have to wonder to some extent, where does Xavier fit in all of that? You're talking about SEC money, Big Ten money. How does the Big East and Xavier fit into that whole equation? And how will they fare when it comes to landing top 100 recruits? Or in the case of Nyk Lewis, a top 60 recruit. What does that look like going forward? And for Nyk Lewis, this wasn't a guy that snuck up on the radar. He wasn't a diamond in the rough that Xavier found and was able to hang on to and hold off the big dogs. This is a guy that's been a top 100 recruit. People knew about him. He's from the DMV area, which is a hotbed for prospect. It's well scouted. He plays in maybe the best prep basketball conference in the entire country, in the area in that DC area. And so people knew who he was. I mean, Xavier was recruiting against high major, big time programs the entire time for a guy who now becomes one of the most highly rated recruits in program history. That's a good sign, I would say. If I were a Xavier fan, I would feel pretty good about that right now because, again, there's just a lot of uncertainty with where everything is headed. And I think when you're trying to figure out where is our spot in all of this, it's really reassuring to see the staff prioritize a guy like that, go to head with a school from the SEC and LSU that has plenty of money to contend with, and still be able to come out on top for a top 60 recruit like that. That would be exciting to me. Adam Cohen, I mentioned at the top that he was the lead recruiter to land Nyk Lewis. And, he's obviously a guy that Sean Miller's talked a lot about, very positively about, from a standpoint of what he means X and O wise on the bench, how much he values his basketball IQ and what he's brought to Xavier's program. But when you look at the recruiting, he's now landed Trey Green, who is ranked 62nd in the class nationally, and Nyk Lewis, who is ranked 57th in the class nationally. It's two pretty highly rated guys just in the overall history of Xavier basketball. It's not 5 stars. I know that's where fans want to get at some point, but it's a pretty good sign that you're able to hang in there and continue to land these types of prospects. And Adam Cohen was a guy that was credited with landing Zaire Williams and Harrison Ingram at Stanford, 2 5-star recruits at that time. He's probably the guy, in my opinion, that's gotten Xavier closest to landing those types of recruits right now. I mean, if Travis Steele obviously was at that level when he was the associate head coach for Xavier, he was really bringing in some guys pretty consistently, and you felt good about it. But I would say Adam Cohen's probably the other guy that's gotten Xavier the closest to feeling like you might have a chance of landing those top 50 and maybe even 5-star recruits going forward. So he's done an excellent job. It's an absolute war to try to land these types of prospects right now. Like I was talking about with the NIL and everything else that's going on when you're recruiting against schools that are offering crazy types of money to these recruits. Adam Cohen has done a really good job, as Xavier's entire staff has, but Adam Cohen, in this case, landing Nyk Lewis, has done a really good job, in my opinion, of keeping the Musketeers competitive and giving them chances to land guys like this that will keep them competitive in the overall college basketball landscape for years to come. In terms of what's next for Xavier, I'm going to write more about this at musketeerreport.com. And if you're not signed up yet for Musketeer Report, right now is a great time to check it out. Today is actually a free day. Everything is free. The paywall has been taken down, so you can check out the message board. You can check out any of the premium content that I've written and get a head start there. Tomorrow, the paywall will be back up, but we're running a 75% off sale, which we run a lot of sales throughout the year, but this is the lowest that it ever goes. 75% off is the big deal. Sometimes we'll do this around like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We'll do the 75% off deal as well. But this is as good as it gets in terms of deals. So if you've been waiting, you've been looking for a good deal to come around, jump in now with that 75% off deal and make sure you get access to all this. But I'll write more about what's next, the prospects that I've really got my eye on, where I think their recruitments are at, probably tomorrow on Friday at musketeerreport.com. But the guys, a couple of names that I would keep an eye on: Jaden Forsyth, Amari Evans, and Trey Singleton. Jaden Forsyth and Amari Evans are both wings, and then Trey Singleton is more of a front court player, kind of a 4-man forward, face-up guy. Interesting prospect. Those are also the next 3 visits in chronological order for Xavier. Jaden Forsyth visits September 13th. Amari Evans visits September 21st, and then Trey Singleton visits September 25th. There are a couple other guys who have scheduled out visits. I'll talk more about those in the write-up at musketeerreport.com. But if I were to kind of give you a quick rundown of like, here's what's to focus on next now that Nyk Lewis has pulled the trigger and committed, those would be the 3 guys: Jaden Forsyth, Amari Evans, and Trey Singleton. So that's pretty much all I got. That's in terms of Xavier news and what happened today. That's the gist of it right there. If you guys have any other things that you wanted to throw out there to me right now, I'm happy to take those. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and wrap this deal up. All right, good deal. Appreciate you guys tuning into this. Again, musketeerreport.com. We've got the 75% off deal going right now. I know you guys are all in. Hopefully you'll be all in on subscribing to musketeerreport.com. And we will see you on the premium message board or talk to you on the next podcast. Thank you, guys.